Let's get started with something that's a pretty big deal for Arlington County, and that is an overhaul, essentially, of the community energy plan. Let's talk first about the goal that plan sets for the community.
Well, Ben, there are three big goals and three key dates that you need to keep in mind. 2025, that's the date where we want all county government facilities to be powered by 100% renewable energy, and that includes our schools. Then there's 2035, where we have that same goal, 100% powered by renewable electricity, renewable energy by 2035, and that's for our entire community. And then the big one, 2050, where we want Arlington County to be a carbon neutral community. That means all of the carbon dioxide that is emitted into the atmosphere is either reduced or offset, so that we are in effect carbon neutral by 2050. It is a big, ambitious goal. We join the District of Columbia as the only jurisdiction in the region that has such an ambitious goal. So we're the first in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we feel very fortunate to be leading what we hope will be a region-wide effort towards a more sustainable region.
Yeah, and we're not sure how we're going to get to all of that yet. And actually, the staff had recommended not going quite that far on the 100%, but the board thought we should. And I think it's a great goal. One of the subjects that's come up that people are concerned about is an easy way to do it is to simply buy it somewhere else. So there's solar arrays all kinds out in Loudoun County or Fauquier County, wherever, and we buy that and say, hey, we're carbon neutral. But meanwhile, we've covered over a whole lot of green space. And I think a lot of us, including myself, would like to see if we can actually start producing a lot of the energy on site, so that by 2050 we're really kind of our own. We do all our energy right here, or a whole lot of it. And there are places in the world where they're doing that, so I think it's possible. But it's a big step.
Oh, yeah.
And as you said, it's big for Arlington County. I mean, this is big for the globe. This was like the day after the Children's March, wasn't it?
Well, day of.
Day
when we
of.
had,
I mean, well, perfect
climate
timing.
actions,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's a big deal. So it's going to be exciting. We've got a community, I think, that really wants to do it. So we'll see where we get. Because we really have to figure this out.
Yeah, and we hear a lot in the news about climate change and carbon plans and carbon emissions, and the plan is very detailed. It goes into has a lot of different aspects. The technical staff who worked on it covered a lot of ground.
Sure.
Can you walk us through what some of the key strategies are, or sectors where we'll see some of that activity happening to help us achieve that goal?
Well, you can think about it in two buckets. There are things that are going to happen through market innovation, some of which are happening already, about cleaning up the grid, for example, so that we can make the power that we generate more efficient, finding ways to have the utility companies take ownership for delivering a cleaner product, if you will. Then there's the bucket of our operations, our business, so our commercial buildings, our residential buildings, and the cars that drive on our street and the transit vehicles. They're continuing innovations towards more fuel efficiency in vehicles, but we still have a long way to go to reach that carbon neutral threshold, and that's going to require that we power those vehicles with 100% renewable sources like electricity. So we've got a huge place to go when it comes to transportation. But our buildings, many residential buildings in Arlington are, have been, built 50, 60, maybe even 70 or 80 years ago, and there's a lot of room to make those more energy efficient. Anything that we build moving forward has to be to the highest standards of energy efficiency. We need Dominion, who powers Arlington. We need the market innovators to help deliver the products, but we actually need to make the investments in what we're doing locally, and we need to encourage a market where we can have people adapt and adopt those fuel-efficient vehicles for their own personal use. Our plan is to bring all of this together towards a carbon neutral goal.
Yeah, and buildings and transportation are the two major sectors where most of that comes from. And electric vehicles, I've sort of thought that they just seem to be we're talking about, but there aren't many. But the world, I think in about 5 years you're going to see a whole lot more. The major market for cars is China. China is requiring electric vehicles. Our government is not doing the government regulation thing that we might to really encourage or require this, but other places in the world they are, and we're going to be affected by that. And I think that actually will benefit us. And you know what? I'd like to just point out that between 2707 and 16, we actually did reduce our emissions by 24%. while our population grew by 10%. So we have been working on it. We have made progress. But like a lot of things, sometimes it's that last 10% that's the really tough one to do.
And as we think about how we get there, and you've talked some about what some of the big players are in the process, county government has a role to play in that. So what are some of the steps that we're going to have to take to make this a reality?
So when we do new buildings, designing them so that they are as efficient as possible, and whether it is a net zero building or you reach some other threshold of efficiency, it's important that everything we build be geared towards being the most energy efficient as possible. Then we also control a lot of the private sector's building through our site plan and use permit process. And so we have to actually take the same standards that we will apply to ourselves and put those out there for private industry. Now, again, this is not government imposing something on anybody, because let's remember, we're not just talking about the existential threat of climate change. You have energy efficient buildings. These are less costly to operate.
Save money.
This is in everybody's best interest. And when it comes to a cleaner grid, a more resilient grid, that should be in Dominion's best interest so that they don't have to deal with service interruptions and other sorts of issues. So, really, this is a case where we need to all come together. And I think one of the distressing things is that you've got international communities like China, which has historically not had an eye towards sustainability.
Yeah.
Europe, which has long been at the forefront, which has got a lot of best practices that we can learn from. Local communities like ours in DC that are putting together plans to do the right thing. Right now, the one drag on all of that, unfortunately, it's our federal government. It's our federal government which has not put together the tools to not only support us, but is actually pursuing objectives that take us back, whether it's fighting California on their fuel efficient standards, rolling back previous administration era standards for fuel efficient vehicles. The United States is unfortunately not actually being very supportive of this work that we're trying to do locally.
No, but it is up to us. I think on a lot of things, it's local government that's really making it happen. We're going to do our best, and I think we've got a great community to help support us. And I think with the Innovation Center, we've got a lot of things coming in with some really cool ideas. One of the ones I heard of recently, which we'll see, I hope we'll start to see, is windows that actually have solar panels built into them. So they're windows and solar panels, so you can do the whole side of a building.
It's coming soon.
It's coming soon, yeah. And it actually is existing in a few places. So I think we're about to see a big step forward, and it's none too soon. It's time.